The space station floated like a giant shadow in the dark sky. Lights blinked across its long metal body. Inside, strange music echoed through the halls. Laughter, voices, and the sounds of alien machines filled the air. This was the Merchant. Station Coronine, a place where the rich and powerful from many galaxies came to buy, sell, and entertain themselves. In the center of the main hall, under a glass dome, stood a cage of pure glowing light. People gathered around it, watching like it was a show. Inside the cage, a girl stood silently. Her name was Alira. She looked different. Her skin had a soft silver tone that shimmered under the lights. Her eyes were deep violet, glowing faintly like stars. Around her neck and ankles were light chains, shining softly but unbreakable. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood still, watching, waiting. The merchants called her the Silver Pet. Some laughed. Others placed bets on when she would finally break and obey, but she never danced for them. Never smiled. They shocked her with light pulses. They made fun of her silence. Still, she remained calm, cold, and quiet. Far away, a man walked down the metallic hallway. His name was Rain, a human soldier. Tall, strong, wearing a worn-out uniform and carrying a long dark coat. He was not here to fight. He was only passing through. Rain had seen many things in his life: war, blood, fire. He didn't care much for aliens or traitors. He just needed fuel and rest. But then he saw the cage. He stopped. At first, he didn't understand why. Just a girl in a cage like many he had seen on other stations, but something about her, something in her eyes. She was not afraid. She was not angry. She was waiting. Then something happened. Alira looked at him directly. Her glowing eyes locked with his. Rain felt a strange pull in his chest, like a soft voice calling from far away. Like a memory he never had. He stepped closer. The guards didn't stop him. Everyone assumed he was just another bored traveler, but then Alira did something no one expected. She spoke. Her voice was soft, almost like wind through broken glass, but clear, and meant for only him. "Claim me, or I'll suffer here." Rain blinked. Did he imagine it? He looked around. No one else reacted. She was still staring at him. He stepped closer to the cage. "What did you say?" he whispered. She didn't speak again, but her eyes said it all. A quiet plea, a message without words. Rain shook his head. "No," he told himself. "Not my problem." He turned to leave, but as he walked away, he kept hearing her voice in his head. "Claim me." That night, Rain couldn't sleep. He lay on his bunk inside his rented room on the station. The dull hum of machines filled the air. But all he could think about was her. Who was she? Why did her voice sound so real in his mind? Why did she look straight into his soul? He searched the station records. Found out she had no name listed, no species, no owner. Just a code, Asset Z19, captured 5 years ago from a broken ship. Labeled dangerous, then sold, passed from one hand to another. Now just entertainment, but her eyes, they were not the eyes of a broken slave. They were the eyes of someone waiting. The next day, Rain returned to the cage. This time, he watched longer. One of the merchants came near her with a remote in hand. He pressed a button. Her body shook from the shock. She fell to her knees. People clapped and laughed, but she did not scream. She just looked up, and again, her eyes found Rain. That was the moment he felt something rise inside him. Anger, guilt, protection, something he had buried long ago during the war. "This isn't right," he whispered. He walked to the nearest merchant and asked, "What does it take to get her out?" The merchant laughed. "She's not for sale, but—" He smiled. "Maybe we can make a deal." Rain narrowed his eyes. "What kind of deal?" The merchant leaned in and whispered, "You want her? Win the game, then she's yours." Rain looked back at Alira. She was still on her knees, still chained. But her head was raised. And for the first time, she smiled, a sad, small, knowing smile. She knew what was coming next, and maybe so did he. The merchant's words echoed in Rain's mind. "You want her? Win the game, then she's yours?" But what kind of game? And why was a living girl the prize? Rain didn't answer right away. He looked at the cage again. Alira was still kneeling, the chains glowing softly around her wrists and ankles. But her violet eyes were on him. Calm. Patient, almost certain. Rain felt a strange chill. He had no plan. He wasn't a hero. He was just a tired soldier who'd seen too much war. Why me? He thought. Why did she speak to me? That night, Rain didn't return to his room. Instead, he sat alone in the dark corner of the food hall, staring at the station map on his wrist screen. He zoomed in on the merchant sectors. One area glowed red, Arena Wing. He tapped it. A message popped up. Private access only. Bloodsport registration required. He looked away. He knew what this meant. The game wasn't a game. It was a fight, a brutal show for the rich. Warriors brought in from across galaxies, human, alien, machine, and the prize. Sometimes weapons, sometimes gold. This time, a girl in chains. Rain clenched his fists. He remembered her voice again. Claim me, not help me, not save me. Claim me, like she already belonged to him. He didn't sleep that night. Just watched the stars through the dirty window and thought about his past. Back on Earth, he had lost too many people. Family, friends, trust. He had promised himself to never care again. Never get involved, but something in her eyes had broken that promise. The next morning, he signed up for the arena. The merchant laughed when he saw Rain. You? You want to fight? You'll be dead before the second round. Rain didn't reply. He just said, if I win, she walks free. The merchant smirked. If you win, she's yours, but her chains stay. Nothing breaks those. Rain's jaw tightened. We'll see. The match was set for the next day. Rain had 24 hours. He used them to prepare. Bought cheap armor, sharpened his old knife, loaded his blaster. No one offered to help. No one cared. Except one. That night he walked to the cage again. Alira stood this time. The light made her silver skin glow like moonlight. She didn't speak. She didn't smile, but when he approached, the light chains on her wrists flickered. Rain noticed. Are you doing that? He asked. She didn't answer. Just stepped closer to the edge of the cage. The light wall between them shimmered. Then, slowly, she raised her hand. Rain hesitated, then lifted his own. Their hands touched, separated by the glowing wall. But still, something passed between them. Warmth. Light. A strange wave of calm and power. In that moment, he felt her pain. He saw flashes. A burning ship. Screams. Her being pulled away. Chains wrapped around her glowing arms. Her eyes full of tears, then empty. And then something else. A promise. If you touch me, I'm yours, but if you leave, I break. Rain pulled back. Don't worry, he said softly. I'll come back for you. The next day, the arena crowd roared. A giant metal ring. Tall energy walls, spikes on the floor. Blood stains from last night's show. Rain stood alone in the center, breathing slowly. His armor was light, barely enough. His knife small. Then the gate opened. Out came the first fighter, a Kurg beast, 10 feet tall, skin like rock, claws dripping with poison. Rain didn't move. He studied its steps, its rhythm, its anger. The beast roared and charged. Rain waited, then rolled left, dodging the claw by inches, slashed at its leg. Sparks flew. The crowd screamed. He got up, ducked a second swing, fired his blaster twice. The shots hit the beast's eye that screamed in pain, swinging wildly. Rain used the chance run up its back and drove. His knife deep into the neck. The beast dropped. Round one. Survived, but there were 4 more rounds. The second was faster, a blade dancer with 6 arms. Rain was cut, bruised, bleeding. But he adapted. He fought smart, not strong. He distracted, tricked, then stabbed. Round 3. He was limping, his arm broken. But still standing. By the 4th round, the crowd had stopped laughing. The merchant's smile was gone. Alira watched from her cage. For the first time, her hands gripped the bars, her eyes wide. Something inside her, changing. Wine fell in round 4. The enemy half-machine slammed him to the ground. But he didn't stay down. He got up, spat blood, and roared. The machine charged. Rain jumped, flipped, and stabbed its core with a stolen blade. The crowd went silent, then screamed. He won. Rain fell to his knees. Breathing hard, the merchant walked to the center. You surprised me, soldier? Fine, she's yours. You get your prize. Rain looked toward the cage. Alira stood tall, calm, glowing. He stepped toward her. The merchant laughed. But you'll never break the chains. They're made of light itself. Rain didn't answer. He placed his hand on the lock, and suddenly the chains broke, not with fire, not with tools. They simply vanished. The crowd gasped. Alira stepped out, no longer chained, no longer silent, looked at Ryn and whispered, "You touched me. Now I'm not a slave anymore." The chains were gone. Alira stood outside the glowing cage for the first time in years. The soft light that once bound her wrists and ankles had vanished the moment Rain touched the lock. The merchants froze. For a long second, no one moved. No. One spoke, then someone shouted, "That's not possible." Another merchant barked orders. Guards raised their weapons. The crowd backed away, unsure whether to cheer or run. Rain stood between Alira and the guards, breathing hard, still covered in blood and dust from the arena. "She's free," he said. The head merchant, a red-scaled alien named Zoran, stepped forward. His sharp teeth glinted under the lights. "No, soldier," he growled. "She's broken property. She belongs to the Merchant Council." Alira looked directly at him. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever before. "You can't own what you fear," she said, her voice calm. Zoran snarled. "You're not special, just a failed experiment. You were meant to obey, not break." Rain raised his blaster. "We had a deal," Zoran smiled coldly. "Yes, you won her, and now we'll take you both back. Or we'll kill you where you stand." Behind them more guards arrived. Energy rifles charged. Rain whispered to Alira. "Can you fight?" She looked at her hands. For a moment she seemed unsure. "I don't remember how, but something inside me is waking up." Rain gave a quick nod. "Then stay close. We're getting out of here." They ran. Rain fired at the guards, covering their path. Alira moved fast, her feet almost silent against the cold metal floor. Her chains were gone, but her fear wasn't. Every hallway looked the same. Every door could be a trap. Rain led her down a narrow maintenance tunnel. Steam hissed from pipes. Lights flickered. He tapped into a stolen station map. "We need a ship," he muttered. "Docking bays 5 levels down." But just then an alarm blared. Lockdown initiated. Steel doors slammed shut across the station. Red lights flashed. Rain cursed. "They're sealing the exits." Alira stopped. Her breath was quick. Her hands shook. "They won't let us go. I've seen this before." Rain looked at her. "What did they do to you?" She stared ahead, eyes darkening. "They trained me, tested me. I was supposed to be a gift to the council. A weapon with a pretty face." Rain raised an eyebrow. "A weapon?" She nodded slowly. "But they didn't understand me. They chained my body but not my mind." I remembered who I was. Rain watched her carefully. "And who are you?" Alira looked straight at him. "A daughter of fire? A royal of the broken star." Rain blinked. "I don't know what that means." She gave a faint smile. "It means they were fools to cage me." Suddenly, footsteps, heavy boots. Voices, "Search the tunnels, kill the human. Bring her back alive." Rain grabbed her hand. "Move!" They ran again, deeper into the underlevels. The air smelled like burnt oil. Pipes rattled. Shadows moved. Finally, they reached an old cargo bay. Inside sat a rusty old freighter ship, abandoned but functional. Rain started scanning it. "We can use this to escape." Alira stayed at the door, watching. But then, a new voice filled the room. "You're not leaving?" Zoran stepped out of the shadows, surrounded by 2 large alien guards, each holding heavy rifles. Rain raised his weapon, but he was tired, wounded. Zoran smirked. "You surprised us, soldier. No one expected a broken human to last 5 rounds, but this is where it ends." He looked at Alira. "Come back quietly and I'll let him live." Alira stepped forward slowly. Rain whispered, "Don't." She turned her head, eyes glowing again. "Trust me." She raised her hands. Light flickered at her fingertips. Zoran laughed. Trying to scare me with party tricks? But then the air changed. The room grew hot. The metal walls began to vibrate. A humming sound filled the space. Zorn took a step back. What? What are you doing? Alira's voice was low but steady. What you were too blind to fear. Flash blinding light burst from her hands. The guards were thrown back like rag dolls. Zoran screamed as sparks exploded around him. Rain shielded his eyes. When the light faded, the guards were unconscious. Zoran lay on the floor, twitching, his armor cracked. Alira stood at the center, calm again. Smoke curled from her fingertips. Rain looked at her with awe. That was inside you the whole time? She nodded. They locked it away, but your touch unlocked me. Rain smiled faintly. Guess we're both more than we seem. He helped her onto the freighter. The engines coughed, then roared to life. As they flew away, alarms still ringing behind them, Alira sat beside him, quiet but no longer afraid. Where now? She asked. Rain looked at the stars ahead. Anywhere but here. She nodded. But deep inside, she knew this wasn't over. They would come. And she would be ready. The stars outside the ship glowed quietly as the freighter drifted through deep space. Inside the dark cockpit, Rain sat at the controls, his body bruised, his mind tired, but his eyes alert. Beside him, Alira stared out. The window. Free. But not at peace. Her wrists still showed faint marks where the light chains had been. No metal, no cuffs, just invisible memory. We're safe now, Rain said softly. Alira didn't answer. She had been silent for hours, not with fear, but with thought. Something inside her was changing. Growing louder, she placed a hand on the window. Her fingers glowed faintly, a soft, warm light. Not from the ship, from her. Rain watched, curious. Are you doing that on purpose? Alira shook her head slowly. No, it's like breathing. It happens on its own now. He leaned back. What are you really, Alira? She closed her eyes. A flash filled her mind. Flames, cities floating in the clouds, a giant throne made of crystal and fire, and her own face, but with a crown. I don't remember everything, she said, but I wasn't always weak. They made me weak. Rain tilted his head. You broke those chains without touching them. She looked at him now. No, you did when you chose me. That was the key. Rain's jaw tightened. That wasn't a choice. It felt like I had to. A silence passed between them. Then an alarm beeped. Rain checked the screen. We've got a tail. Small ship, fast. Alira leaned over. Her face turned serious. They're not done with me yet. The ship chasing them was not a warship. It was smaller, sleeker, built for one purpose, to retrieve or kill. Rain tried to outfly it, but the freighter was too slow. The enemy ship fired a warning blast. Alira stood behind Rain, her hands glowing brighter now. Let me try something. Rain looked over. Try what? Alira stepped to the front. She reached toward the ship's systems, but not with her hands. With her energy, lights flickered. The engine pulsed. The freighter jumped forward faster than it should have. Rain's eyes widened. You did that? Alira didn't answer. She focused harder. The chasing ship fired again. A shot hit the back wing. The freighter shook violently. Sparks flew. Rain gritted his teeth. One more hit like that, we're done. Alira stepped away from the panel. She closed her eyes, and then she began to glow. Her whole body, not just her hands. Rain watched in awe. What are you doing? Alira whispered, calling what they tried to bury. Suddenly, her body rose a few inches above the floor. The lights dimmed. A wind, impossible in a sealed ship, brushed through the room. Rain felt pressure in the air. Like standing inside a storm, Alira opened her eyes. They were pure white, miles. Behind them, the chasing ship's pilot saw something strange. His screen glitched. His controls stopped responding. The image of the freighter shimmered, then his entire ship froze mid-flight. All systems failed. Lights went black. Then it exploded. No fire. No impact. Just light. And silence. Back inside the freighter, Alira fell. To her knees, the glow faded. Her breathing slowed. Rain rushed to her. Alira. She looked up at him, sweat on her forehead, but a calm in her eyes. It listened. The part of me they couldn't cage. Rain helped her up. You destroyed their ship with... What? Your mind? She nodded slowly. Not just mind, memory, blood power that belongs to my people. Rain looked at her, unsure. You're not just powerful, you're... dangerous. Alira looked away. That's why they chained me. Rain thought for a moment. But they're not the only ones, are they? She didn't answer, but he was. Right. That night they found a quiet moon to land on. Rain worked to repair the ship. Alira sat outside on a rock under the stars. Her thoughts were loud. She remembered her real name now. Not just Alira Visan, last daughter of the Starborn House. A bloodline built from fire and sky. She had forgotten it because the merchants wanted her to forget. They fed her drugs, locked her memories, made her a thing, but now her soul was waking. Suddenly she heard footsteps behind her. Ryan. He sat beside her. You okay? She nodded. I feel clearer now, stronger. Rain looked up at the stars. They're going to come after us again, aren't they? Alira didn't hesitate. Yes, and not just merchants. Rain sighed. Great. She looked at him now. Why did you help me, Rain? He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, because you asked. And because I saw something in your eyes that reminded me I'm still human. Alira smiled. For the first time, it wasn't sad. She placed her hand on his. Then you should know I'm not the only one in chains. Rain looked at her, confused. She squeezed his hand gently. You're still running from something. We both are. The wind picked up slightly. The stars twinkled above. In the silence. Something unspoken passed between them. Not love, not yet, but something deep. A bond, one made not by force but by choice. The sun was rising on the dead moon. Golden light stretched over the broken rocks, shining on the small freighter ship where two fugitives rested. Inside, Rain checked the fuel levels while Alira stood by the window, her eyes distant. She was remembering. Again, flashes of fire, screams, her people falling from the skies. They chained my hands, she whispered, but they feared my name. Rain looked up. What do they call you? She turned, her voice strong now. Alira Vasan, daughter of flame, last of my bloodline. Rain stared for a moment. He'd known she was powerful. But now he realized she was royalty, not just a prisoner, a symbol, a weapon. A threat, and now she was his responsibility, but... Before he could speak, the warning lights blinked. Incoming ships. 5. Rain cursed. They found us again. Alira moved to the controls. They're not merchants this time. She was right. On the screen appeared the symbol of the Coalition fleet, a galactic force that didn't answer to any planet. They didn't take prisoners. Rain tapped the throttle. We're not fast enough to outrun them. Alira placed a glowing hand on the ship's console. The lights flickered. Then we don't run. Not yet. Outside, the 5 Coalition ships circled like vultures. The freighter was surrounded. A voice came over the radio. Unregistered vessel. Power down and prepare to be boarded. Rain looked at Alira. She didn't flinch. Do we fight? She shook her head. We distract. Rain raised an eyebrow. That sounds worse. She stepped forward, opened a hidden panel, and pulled out a black cube covered in symbols. Rain frowned. What is that? Alira looked at the cube like it was a piece of her own soul. A flame seed. One of the last things I hid before they took me. Rain watched carefully. What does it do? She smiled softly. It reminds the stars who we were. She placed the cube in the center of the control panel. Instantly, the ship began to shake. The engines roared, not louder, but deeper, like thunder from another world. The Coalition ships backed away slightly, sensing danger. Rain shouted, Alira, what is this thing doing? She didn't respond. She closed her eyes. Outside, the sky above the moon shimmered. A great fire broke through the clouds, not from fuel, not from bombs, but from memory. The cube released ancient energy flame not made of heat, but of light and time. A symbol blazed into the sky, a mark of the royal House of Visan on the Coalition bridge. The commander's face turned pale. That's impossible. She's supposed to be dead. Inside the freighter, Alira stood strong, the wind of power swirling around her. "I'm done hiding." The enemy fired first. Bright plasma bolts tore through the sky. One hit the freighter's wing. Rain pulled the ship up, dodging as best he could. Panels sparked. Alira didn't move. She held the flame steady, then she whispered, "Let them come through fire." Rain shouted, "You'll burn us with it." Alira opened her eyes. They glowed brighter than ever. "No, I'm guiding it." Suddenly, the flame seed exploded not outward, but inward, forming a dome of light around the freighter. The coalition ships fired again. The blasts vanished into the dome. Rain gasped. "A shield?" Alira nodded. "Not for long. It's drawn from my own life." Rain looked at her. "You'll die if you keep holding it." She stepped back from the panel, weak now. "Then fly fast." Rain didn't wait. He hit the boosters. The freighter flew forward, straight through the fire. The shield held, burning hot but clear. The coalition ships chased them, confused, their systems blinking, their aim lost. One by one, the coalition ships broke formation. Their targeting failed. Their screens glitched with images of ancient symbols, Alira's family crest. It was not technology. It was fear. Minutes later, they broke free into open space. The fire faded behind them. The shield dropped. Rain looked over. Alira had collapsed. "Alira!" He carried her to the ship's med bay. Her skin was warm, too warm. Her pulse was slow. The flame seed had drained her. Rain placed her on the bed, his heart pounding. He didn't care that she was royal. He didn't care that she could destroy fleets with her mind. He cared that she had chosen him when she had nothing, and now she was fading. Alira's eyes opened, just barely. "Did we make it?" Rain nodded, holding her hand. "Yeah, we did." She smiled faintly. "Good, I hate chains." Hours passed. Rain sat by her side, watching her breathe. He didn't sleep. He thought about the merchant station, the arena, the cage, and now, this fire. Who else knows what she is? He whispered. Because if others knew, if others remembered the name Vasan, they wouldn't stop chasing them. She wasn't just a girl he freed. She was a spark that could light the galaxy, and sparks, they always attract fire. The stars felt colder now. Rain sat alone in the cockpit. The ship was quiet. Alira was still asleep in the med bay, recovering from the fire shield. Her glow had faded, but the warmth of her presence still lingered in the air. He stared at the dark space ahead, his fingers resting on the flight controls. But they weren't moving. He wasn't flying anywhere. He was thinking. "We can keep running," he told himself, "or we can go back." But going back meant returning to the place where the pain began, the place where she had suffered. The place where others were still chained. Rain clenched his jaw. His hands tightened around the controls. He thought of the other cages, the other eyes that had watched him as he walked away with Alira, eyes full of hope and fear. "They're still there," he whispered, "just like she was." Behind him, a soft voice broke the silence. "Then we don't leave them." He turned. Alira stood in the doorway, weak but awake. Her silver skin was pale. Her hair was tangled. But her eyes, those glowing violet eyes, were full of fire again. Rain stood up quickly. "You shouldn't be out of bed?" Alira gave a faint smile. "I shouldn't be many things, but here I am." He stepped toward her. "You nearly died." She looked at him. "We both will, if we forget why we started this." There was a long silence between them. Rain sighed. "We go back." The station had changed. The grand lights were gone. The merchant plaza was quiet. The cage in the center where Alira had once stood was now dark and empty, but in the lower levels, nothing had changed. There were still cages. Rain and Alira snuck back in using stolen codes. Their ship was hidden behind a nearby moon, cloaked by broken satellites. They moved through the tunnels like ghosts, silent, unseen, determined. In the underbelly of the station, they found it, a secret lab, cold, metallic, filled with tubes, wires, and soft-humming machines, and inside, dozens of prisoners, some human, some alien, all silent, all chained. Some barely moved. Others looked up as Rain and Alira entered, their eyes wide with quiet shock. One child, a small girl with blue skin, reached toward Alira. "Are you the light?" The girl whispered. Alira knelt beside her. No, I'm just someone who found it again. Suddenly, a door hissed open. Corran. The merchant leader, burned and scarred from their last meeting, stepped into the room. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a new figure, a woman, tall, robotic limbs, cold silver eyes, wrapped in a coalition officer's coat. You came back, Zoran hissed. Foolish! The woman stepped forward. She's more than a slave now, and more than a symbol. She's a weapon, and weapons belong to us. Rain raised his gun. She belongs to no one, the woman smiled. We'll see. She pressed a button. The floor shook. And from the side chamber, a second prisoner was dragged out, another like Alira, but this one wasn't free. She wore the same light chains. Her eyes were blank. Her body floated just above the ground. Alira's face changed. No, Rain whispered. You know her? Alira nodded slowly. She's my sister. The room grew cold. Zoran stepped back. We couldn't control you, Alira, but we learned from you. The coalition woman smirked. We built a better version, loyal, empty, powerful. The chained sister raised her hand. A blast of blue light flew toward Rain and Alira. They jumped back. The wall behind them cracked open. Rain fired. The bullets passed through the air, bent away before they touched her. Alira stepped forward. Stop! She shouted. You know me. You know who you are. The sister paused, but only for a second. She attacked again. Alira screamed. They made you forget! She didn't want to fight her. She couldn't, but the air was shaking now. Lights burst. Above them, sparks flew. Rain pulled Alira back. We can't win this. Alira looked into her sister's glowing eyes. I have to remind her who she is. Rain nodded. Then I'll hold them off. Rain turned and opened fire on Zoran and the guards. Alira moved toward her sister. She lowered her hands. Didn't fight. Didn't resist. Instead, she spoke softly. You and I used to fly above the rivers of Eros. Do you remember the orange clouds? Her sister flinched. We used to sing the sky song. You were afraid of heights? The chains flickered. The energy around her cracked. You used to laugh when I fell in the garden pool. You used to say we were born of stars? A soft sound escaped the sister's lips, a sound that was almost a tear. Alira took another step forward. They erased your name. But I remember it. Your name is Kayla. The chains broke. Her sister collapsed into her arms, crying. The lab was burning. Behind them, Rain shouted, Time to go. Alira nodded. But now, she didn't leave alone. They escaped through fire again, not running this time. Rescuing. Beside her stood Kayla, free, remembering, behind them. The lab exploded, and the station would never recover. The stolen freighter shook as it broke atmosphere. Below them, the merchant station burned. From the cockpit, Rain watched black smoke rise into the stars, glowing like a scar on the sky. Alira stood behind him, her eyes fixed not on what was destroyed, but on who stood beside her now. Kayla. Her sister, once broken. Now free, still silent, still fragile, but alive. Rain glanced over his shoulder. They'll send more ships, Alira nodded. They always do. He lowered the ship into the cover of an asteroid field. The engines hummed quietly. Kayla sat down, hugging her knees, her face pale. The light chains were gone, but the pain wasn't. She hadn't spoken since the escape. Her eyes looked far away, still trapped in memories that weren't hers. Alira knelt beside her. You don't have to remember everything now, she whispered. Just know you're not alone. Kayla looked at her, really looked, and nodded once. It was enough. That night, silence filled the ship. Rain patched holes in the wall. Alira watched over her sister. And far in the dark, alarms echoed across the galaxy, because the coalition had lost something they thought they owned. Twice. And now they were angry. Rain knew what was coming. Warships, trackers, hunters. The system would never let Alira disappear. Not after she destroyed their cages. Not after she freed a second Starblood. He sat beside her in the cargo bay. You should hide, he said. Find a deep planet. Somewhere they can't reach. Alira looked at him. And leave the others behind? Rain shook his head. There are no others. Just you two, she frowned. You know that's not true. He sighed. You want to save everyone. That's noble. But what if it costs you your life? She met his eyes. And it was a fair trade. Rain fell quiet. Her voice was calm, but full of finality, like someone who had already made peace. With her path he stood. Then I'm going with you. Alira raised a brow. You don't have to, Rain smiled. I know. By morning, a plan was set. They wouldn't run anymore. Instead, they would send a signal not to the coalition, but to the ones hiding in silence, the ones still chained, the forgotten, the lost, the royal bloodlines and the failed experiments, Alira. And Kayla would broadcast a call to the galaxy. You are not alone. The freighter docked near an abandoned relay station. Rain hacked into the network while Alira prepared the message. Kayla sat beside her. She hadn't spoken a word since being freed. Until now. I remember the sky song. Alira turned to her, startled. Kayla's eyes filled with tears. I remember you sang it to me when I was scared. Alira took her sister's hand. We'll sing it again. Together. The signal went live. A simple message. This is Alira. Visan, daughter of flame, I was chained, now I'm free. If you hear this, if you feel the spark inside you, come home. You were never a weapon, you were never a thing, you are light. And the stars remember you. It wasn't loud. It wasn't violent, but across the outer systems, receivers buzzed. Silent rooms filled with sound. Forgotten prisoners looked up. Eyes widened. Hope returned. And far across space, in places even the coalition feared to go, others heard the name Visan and knew the old blood had risen again, but freedom had a price. As the message spread, so did its enemies. The coalition fleet moved quickly. Interceptors tracked the signal. Zoran, half-burned, sat beside the commanders. She's not a girl anymore, he said. She's a spark. Kill her before she becomes a fire. The order was given. Destroy the freighter. No survivors. Rain saw them first 3 warships breaking. Through warp space, he jumped to the controls. We've got company, Alira rushed forward. We're not fast enough to run. Rain cursed. Then we make our stand. The ship shuddered under fire. Lights flickered. Kayla stood at the back of the bridge, her eyes slowly glowing. Rain turned to Alira. You said the flame listens to you. Alira nodded. It does. He pointed out the window. Then call it. Alira stood in the center of the ship. Kayla beside her. Both raised their hands. Both closed their eyes. Both remembered who they were. Flame answered. Not fire, but light. Not heat, but memory. A wave of brilliance exploded from the ship, pure ancient power. The stars themselves seemed to bend. The first warship broke apart mid-flight. The second veered away. The third fired. But the beam was swallowed by the flame and turned into ash. Rain shielded his eyes. Heart pounding. Then silence when he opened them again. The warships were gone and Alira stood still, her glow fading. Breathing slowly, Kayla collapsed beside her. Rain ran to them. Alira! She looked at him, barely smiling. They won't come back? Rain caught her as she fell. He held her in his arms, heart racing. You did it. You set them free, she whispered. No. We did. Then everything went dark. Days passed. The freighter floated through quiet stars. Alira slept. Kayla healed. Rain flew, and across the galaxy sparks lit up. 1 became 2. 2 became hundreds. The system that chained them could no longer silence them, because the stars had remembered. And now so would the world.